I think we recently covered you joining this class action lawsuit with former President Trump against, broadly speaking, big tech. So tell me a bit about this.
I should note that it's actually thousands of people part of this class action lawsuit. He's certainly the best known. And I should also note that I didn't vote for him. He's not my guy. I don't agree with him about a lot of things, but I do agree that big tech should not be censoring private individuals, and that it's a huge blow to civic discourse that they would go as far as to censor a former United States president. So it's a lawsuit that America First has put together. I'm not yet formally admitted to it, though I just got the documents to sign, so I believe I'll be part of it. And apart from that, it's a pretty compelling lawsuit, because I think a lot of people are aware that big tech has started kind of in a very purge-like Stalinist way to, go after. At first it was the conservatives, and at first it was marginal people, and at first it was, people inciting violence, which is never good and is not First Amendment protected speech. But then it was me, and the reason I was deplatformed by Twitter about 5 weeks ago, and my 146,000 followers can no longer find me there, is I posted a video of my husband, a PI, reading Dr. Ralph Barrick's CV, which clearly identifies gain-of-function research and NIH funding for his research. And that got 74,000 views before my account was frozen. And the second thing I want to note is I was deplatformed a day later as I was trying to upload a press release verbatim that I'd read verbatim of a sitting United States State Senator, Kim Thatcher of Oregon, about her bill SB 872 to ban vaccine passports and mask mandates. So to me, if we've gotten to a point where a giant tech company or even a little company is silencing people who are providing first-hand sourcing for major news stories or reading press releases from elected officials, that's like not America anymore. And the last thing I want to say about that is that the Twitter spokesperson told a lot of news outlets that I was deplatformed and told them the reason was vaccine misinformation, which is very damaging. I'm a reporter, and I have 35 years of extremely solid reporting and 8 best-selling nonfiction books. So that's scary too, that big tech is kind of singling out citizens and smearing them, baselessly. And now we've seen it last week, just to move from myself to a much more general situation, when Jen Psaki at the White House spokeswoman, identified 12 private citizens, who were expressing their opinions, and at the level of the White House told big tech, go after these people. So it's a scary marriage of government and technology in censoring open debate.
Well, and so it sounds to me like you're saying that you don't believe you broke any rules here even. Well,
so I guess first of all, I would challenge that phrasing, broke any rules, right? Every private company, and I'm a CEO tech, I have my own platform. We have terms of service. Twitter has terms of service. Every private company is entitled to say, if you violate our terms of service, you can be, deplatformed. But nowhere in the fine print, and I read terms of service, as a CEO tech, I read theirs, it didn't say we're going to go to your employers and tell them you're not credible. If I had seen that, I would have built up 12 years of intellectual capital on another platform. And also, those terms of service change all the time. So when the last time I read the terms of service, pretty recently, they said don't harass, no threats of violence, no advertising. That's all completely legitimate. But they didn't say don't post the CV of a grant recipient of the NIH, and they didn't say don't post any communications from elected United States government officials.
No, I mean it's pretty fascinating, and you're also saying that no one actually communicated with you directly. And I can say, just from some of our unfortunate experience with a number of big tech companies, that seems to be the MO.
Yeah. I mean, again, I keep thinking of training, like obedience training, because I had been briefly deplatformed before. And when I was raising my kids in the 90s, there was this very popular book called 1, 2, 3 Time Out. You know, you're supposed to say, that's 1, that's 2, and the third time they go to their room. You know, that's a discipline. And that's appropriate for a toddler. It's not appropriate for a 58-year-old, journalist and author, or anyone, because that's really the conditioning. It was like, oh, first strike, don't do this again. Oh, second strike, third time's going to end in suspension. But there's no communication like, this is off limits, or don't go near vaccine information, or don't post the Moderna website. So nothing I did, again, violated the terms of service the last time I had read them, and nothing in the communication was the kind of way you would communicate to a customer about, breaking the rules. And this is very characteristic, bigger picture of closing democracies or emerging totalitarian societies. They did this, I'm Jewish, so I'm allowed to say this, they totally did things like this in Germany when it was still a fragile democracy, like creating very vague laws that if you broke the rules, you were in big trouble, but you could never really know what was going to trigger that breaking of the rules. And it could be for very trivial things like listening to BBC radio or, making fun of a Führer. But that might trigger a very harsh penalty. So I'm not saying it's the same thing, but I'm saying you do see in closing democracies this kind of training that, if you go too far, but we won't tell you exactly what that is, something terrible will happen to you. And certainly, I do feel like, to give interviews, which the Twitter spokesperson did, with every major news outlet in North America and Britain, many of which I write for, like The Guardian, calling me not credible was very much a kind of demonstration to other journalists of what could happen to you. And, I've obviously survived that. That's not the worst thing in the world. But what's really scary is the ripple effect it has, the chilling effect on other journalists, because I've gotten so many emails from other reporters saying, I really admire you. I'm so sorry you were deplatformed. And when I would say, well, can you say that publicly? They universally said, I would, but I'm really afraid of being deplatformed. And I've seen the self-censorship that has gone on in the wake of some high-profile deplatforming of, journalists. And also, the last thing I want to say is, and your wonderful journalist, Petter Svab, asked me something like, do you feel what you said appropriate or something like that. I don't want to mischaracterize what he said, but I want us to remember what it means to be American. In America, right, there is no policeman telling you what feelings are appropriate or not appropriate. And I fear, yes, they're a private platform, they can do what they want, but when the government uses our tax dollars to send a message that these tech companies will do their bidding and will target their enemies or their critics in a way that chills debate, they've gotten around the First Amendment and they've gotten around the Constitution, and that's what we should look at.